Hello, bridge builders! I'm here with some exciting news. The first volume of interviews is now available on Amazon.com. The link can be found at eatlunchandboardgame.com. I promise that all proceeds from sales of this book will go right back into this podcast and channel. Whether that is new and better audio equipment for the podcast, or video equipment for the YouTube channel, or even more games to review, the money will not be wasted. Click over to Amazon and get your copy of Eat Lunch and Board Game, the first course today. And thank you for supporting the show. I wish that I could say I bought just a few games that came to my attention via Will Wheaton's Tabletop on YouTube, but that would be a lie. What I can say, though, few games have come to my attention and immediately jumped into my top 5, if not top 3, like Champions of Midgard. Ole Steiness' worker placement game made an immediate impact on me. I love worker placement games, yet there was something different about this game. Something about the way it played. Something about the interaction between players. Something about the overall feel of the game. It didn't hurt that the episode featured an actual Viking playing the game. Well, ex-Minnesota Vikings punter Chris Kluwe, but close enough. I held off buying it, as it was a play-and-win at Geekway to the west, the local gaming convention here in St. Louis. So I went to the convention, learned to play it, loved it, and hoped that I would win the game. Sadly, I did not. Even sadder, Gray Fox Games, the St. Louis-based game publisher that publishes Midgard in the U.S., was at the convention, but they were sold out. So I went to my friendly local game shop and purchased Champions of Midgard. It has since seen plenty of table time. In Champions of Midgard, you and your fellow players are Viking warriors who are vying for the spot of the recently deceased Jarl, the leader of the clan. The creatures in the area know of his passing and are coming to terrorize the village. You are trying to prove that you are the worthy successor by defeating these enemies and collecting glory. Over 8 rounds, you and your opponents will collect warrior dice, food, wood, get blessings, and fight enemies to prove once and for all you are the champion of Midgard. Alright, welcome back to Lunch and Board Game. I'm your host, Adam Collins. Let's take a look at the rule clarity for Champions of Midgard. The rulebook for Champions is a massive 14 pages at 8 by 11 inch sized paper. It has small font too, but a lot of pictures. It also works well as a glossary. The rules themselves are quite clear, but the layout can be a bit frustrating at times when looking for a specific rule or clarification. However, once you play a few games, and you will play a lot of games, the rules become second nature, and the rulebook is no longer needed. Time to explain to newcomers. There is a lot going on in Champions of Midgard, as the excessively large rulebook would suggest. The board itself contains over a dozen, depending on player count, places to place your Viking meeple. Each of these locations needs to be explained. Then, depending on the player count, up to 4 more market stalls could be placed on the board and will also need to be explained. The journey cards will need to be explained. Rules governing the destiny cards and how they score. Explaining the leaderboards is also a huge thing. It is important that each player understands what each of the 5 included leaders does. Each leader does have a different special ability. As I said, there is a lot going on in this amazing game. It will take about 15 to 20 minutes to explain everything. I know because I just did this for a group of my friends at the local library for a gaming event. It does help that you can explain everything as you set up the game. However, due to the built-in replayability, each time you play the game, even with the same people, some explanation might be required for any different market stalls in play that they have not seen or used before. Gameplay. Champions of Midgard works like most worker placement games. This means that on a player's turn, a meeple gets placed on an open space and that action is taken. The next player goes, and so on until all the players have placed all their meeple. other than one spot. Only one meeple can be placed per spot. Once all the meeple are placed, the players that have chosen to fight or hunt assign their warrior dice. The people hunting roll their dice first. For each hit, when a weapon shows on the die, a food cube is collected. This maxes out at 6. Then, the player who chose to battle the troll will go, followed by anyone fighting a draugr. Lastly, anyone taking a ship journey to the monsters at the bottom of the board will reveal their journey card, deal with it if need be, and then battle the monster. Finally, the board is reset for the next round. Repeat for a total of 8 rounds. That's it. Got it? Okay, I'll break this down. Once a first player is selected, the person who would go last gets to select the leader first. Then the next to last player selects the leaderboard. Finally, this goes around until the first player selects last. Each player selects a color and takes the meeple and scoring discs of that color, along with 1 meat cube, 1 wood cube, 1 coin, 1 horn, 1 white warrior dice, and 1 dealt randomly destiny card. Each player sets 1 disc on the 0 at the top of the scoreboard, and the other on the upper right of their leaderboard. The die is placed on the one of the 8 squares on the leaderboard. 1 Viking meeple, would that be a veeple, is placed in the worker's hut, and in a 3 or more player game, 1 meeple is left in the box. The rest are placed on the leaderboard. To set up, the first player takes the first player token. Then, depending on player count, market stalls are set out as either military or economic. All the decks need to be shuffled and placed where they are shadowed on the board. Then the round token is placed on the 1, the first troll is flipped over, the top 2 draugrs are turned face up, and the monsters are placed in their bottom spots with journey cards populating their respective places face down based on player count. The top merchant ship card and first 2 runes are also flipped and displayed. Place the public longships next to the shipwright's hut, and the private longships for purchase are placed next to the board. Again, this amount is based on player count. Lastly, warrior dice are placed in their respective locations on the board, along with 1 meat cube at the smokehouse. The game is now ready to go. First player places a meeple on the circle next to the action they want to take. If the player receives something like a warrior die or a meat token, it is taken right then. If they choose to fight an enemy, they must wait until the end of the round to do that. This allows the player to collect more dice during the round to take into battle. Once a place is selected by a player, no other player can take this action, the exception being the hunting grounds. Other actions include: visit the market to trade 1-to-1 meat, wood, and coin. At the church, you can buy more horns. Horns are worth 2 points at the end of the game, or they can be used to re-roll all the dice from a battle or hunting. The Jarl's Longhouse will take the first player token and add a white die to your board. The Runesmith requires 1 wood, but in return you get a one-time use rune that can be powerful if played at the right time. They are also worth some points at the end of the game. The last worker can be hired from the worker hut. My advice here, the earlier the better. It is more expensive to buy them early, but they give you more benefits than waiting until the end to buy them for cheap. The shipwright can build you a personal ship for attacking the monsters. You can charter a public ship to battle the monsters at the bottom of the board. You can visit the sage's house to get a new destiny card and get a peek at one of the journey cards at the bottom of the board. The destiny cards give you an in-game bonus if achieved. You can spend a coin to receive what the merchant has for sale at his ship. Patronize the swordsmith, the hafter, the blacksmith, or smokehouse to receive all the dice or meat in their respective shops. The economy and military tiles will vary from game to game, and they will also offer great benefits. Lastly, you can decide to hunt with your dice or attack an enemy. Once all available veeple are placed, it is time to assign the dice. Each player that has a battle or hunting decides how many warrior dice are going to take each action. They can be split. Late game, I like to be battling at least 2 enemies, as it is a great way to score a lot of points. When hunting, all the players' dice are rolled and all the hits are added up. A hit depends on the die. White, you're looking for a sword, red, a spear, and black, an axe. Each die also has a double attack and blanks, and the white and red have shields. Back to hunting, each of the hits, up to a maximum of 6, pays out a meat. Every enemy card has the same anatomy. The red number in the upper left is its attack value, the number of dice it will kill. The blue value in the upper right is its defense, the amount of hits a player's warrior dice must meet or exceed to defeat it. Once a player rolls, add up the attack first. If the blue number is met or passed, the enemy is defeated. Then subtract the red value of dice from the pool that was used to attack. Those warriors died in combat and died in glory. The player gets to choose which dice are lost. Though, any shields that appeared on red or white dice block one attack and save a die. Do not forget about your ability to re-roll for horns. If the blue number was not exceeded, and after the sacrifice dice are removed, the next round begins. Place any wound markers on the enemy card to remind everyone of the damage dealt in the first round. Once in combat, there can only be 2 outcomes: victory or defeat. If a player has no remaining warriors and the enemy still has health, the player loses. If the warriors have dealt more damage than the enemy can withstand, they are victorious. Each enemy type gets different rewards, and the rewards are shown at the bottom of each card. First up in battle, the Troll. This beast, if not defeated or even challenged, will rampage the village, and all the players will receive a blame token. These terrible little square chits are negative points at the end of the game, and they increase in negative points using the triangular sequence. 1 is worth -1, 2, -3, 3, -6, 4, -10, 5, -15, and my personal favorite, 6 or more is -21 points. Thankfully for me, that's where it stops. I usually end up with 6 unless I can control the troll. If the troll is defeated, the attacking player receives the points and honor listed in the lower left, a wood token, and they get to hand out some blame. First, 1 blame may be given from their own stash that they have already received. Second, a new blame is given from the supply, and yes, both can be given to me. I mean, the same player. The rules do allow you to give them to 2 separate players. I know because I checked, Greg. Next up are the Draugrs. The same basic attack defense applies. This time they could restrict who can attack. In the bottom middle, a symbol of a warrior die could be there with a red slash through it. This means that no dice of that type can attack this enemy card. Beware of this. When a Draugr is defeated, it gives honor and coins. Lastly, the monsters at the bottom. These behemoths offer a lot of points and horns as their reward for defeating them. This offsets the risk of attacking them. To get to the monsters, you must take a boat. Stock it with warrior and food dice not exceeding the boat's capacity. Then, depending on which monsters selected for attack, the food could feed 1 to 1 or 1 food to 2 dice. Now, the fun part. The boat with the warriors and food encounters the journey card. Remember, you could have looked at this had you gone and got a destiny card. You flip it over. This could be an all quiet, which is no fun, and then you just proceed to the monster. It could say you lose a food or dice, which is semi-fun. Remove what is acquired and anything further. So if you lose 1 food, and you might have to lose another die depending on how you stocked your boat. Or it could be a Kraken, the most fun. This mythical monster must be defeated before advancing to the original monster you went to attack. The Kraken deals damage like any other monster. If the Kraken defeats your warriors, you lose and do not even make it to your original target. If a boat survives the journey, the remaining warriors attack like any other monster. Be sure to check if any type of die may not be used in the attack. The rewards, like I said, are huge points, a horn, and any gold coin on the card. Why are there gold coins on the card? Well, I'm glad you asked. After each round resolves the battles and points, horns, and wood are awarded, and shame, Lots of shame. The board must be reset for the next round. You add a die of each type to the proper space, add a meat. Even if there's already some there, you add another one. Flip the merchant ship deck to the next card, discard any troll or draugr still on the board and make them new, and then add a coin to any monster still at the bottom of the board. Add any new monster journey cards if needed, and lastly, you will advance the round marker. Champions of Midgard ends after the 8th round. Then final scoring occurs. You add 1 glory for every 3 coins, 2 glory for each unused horn, 5 glory for each set of enemy cards. A set is 1 of each color. There are red, blue, and yellow. Pay attention to these. Keep yours hidden and get those sets. Those 5 points are crucial. And then lastly, you need to check and score any destiny cards. If you have the most of whatever the card says, score the higher of the 2 values. If someone ties you, you score the lower of the 2 values. If you're not first or tied for first, that card scores 0 points. Then the Viking warrior with the most glory is the winner and the new Jarl of Midgard. Replayability. Straight out of the box, Champions of Midgard has plenty of replayability. With the base game only, you can play with up to 4 players, but there are 5 to choose from. You will only see 8 of the 16 trolls in one game session. There are 21 draugrs, 36 monsters, and 18 journey cards that can be placed in your path. Not to mention there are 10 runes and 12 destiny cards. Likely, you won't see all of them in one sitting either. Then there are 4 military and 4 economic stalls, yet the most you will play in one game would be 2 of each. Like I said, lots of replayability included. As I will talk about later, there are monster, troll, and draugr packs you can buy for cheap just to add more replayability. There are other leaderboards you can procure as well as new destiny and runes. Component quality. Champions of Midgard has a high production quality. The board and all cardboard pieces are nice and thick. The cards are all linen finish. The meeple are standard wood. The dice are all nicely engraved D6s. Sadly, the wood and meat are represented by brown and red cubes, respectively. I hate cubes, and I have replaced them with some wood and meat shaped tokens. I suggest you do the same. It looks and feels better. This game sees its share of table time, and I want to preserve the cards as expansions and promos that I'll talk more about later in this episode, add to the decks, and I want them not to stand out based on wear. The only downside to this, there are 2 different card sizes. Artwork. To say that Jose David Lanza Sabrian and Victor Perez Corbella knocked it out of the park would be a disservice to them. They absolutely slay it in the art department. Each piece of artwork is just gorgeous. The board is huge and beautiful. Each draugr, monster, and troll look amazing. Just the table presence that the artwork brings to the game heightens the feeling of the theme. The artwork just helps you get immersed in the world of Midgard, and I love it. Lunchtime potential. This game is not playable in a lunch hour. I am sorry. I have tried sneaking into the conference room to set the board up ahead of time to cut that time out. But nope. The last 2 rounds just take a long time as everyone is vying for the most beneficial monsters, draugrs, and trolls. Even with 4 players that know what they're doing, Champions of Midgard is just a 75-minute game. It takes even longer if you have people that are less familiar with it. Like I have said in the past, this is one of those Friday games. When the boss is away, we will play games. Expansions. In a nod for the time move, Grey Fox Games released 2 expansions at the same time. Both are part of the same Kickstarter campaign back in February of 2017. At the time, I did not have the money to purchase them in the awesome Jarl Edition box that holds all the expansions in there. And it also came with a beautiful neoprene mat that has the new boards incorporated into one giant laid out mat. And the new Viking meeple. I was not one of the over 7,000 backers that contributed over $540,000. I have bought them both since, however, along with the other promotional materials. First up is the Dark Mountains. The Dark Mountains adds more of everything, more leaderboards, more runes, more market stalls, an expansion-specific destiny card, more enemy cards, a new enemy, a new set of warrior dice, a 5th player, and 2 new, smaller boards to be set next to the main board. At its core, Dark Mountains adds enemies to fight after a land journey. This journey is very similar to the one required to fight the monsters at the bottom of the board over the ocean. The main difference being, no boat required. You line yourself up with which Burgrazar you want to fight. Before resulting in the battle, you must flip the land journey card and resolve its effect. Typically, they involve money being paid per party member or stolen by bandits. Of course, there is also the All Quiet card, but I rarely see these. Defeating a Burgrazar gives the victor a green archer die with some points. The archer dice are very effective while hunting. The D6 has only one blank side. The other 5 sides have a bow and arrow that counts a hit, and 3 of those sides have a deer icon. So when hunting, if the side shows the bow, arrow, and deer, it counts as 2 food. This is a quick way to get a lot of food. Dark Mountains also adds a new permanent stall, the Beggar Stall. This location offers its visitors any resource they want, but a blame token comes with it. There are 3 other new stalls to shuffle in with the others. For $25, this expansion adds a lot of new avenues, while not changing the gameplay too much. It is well worth the money. The other expansion is Valhalla. Like with the Dark Mountains, Valhalla adds more of everything. This time, 3 new types of warrior dice, another smaller board, Valhalla, is set next to the main board, new leaderboards and leader ability boards, runes, destiny cards, and sacrifice tokens to be placed in the new Burial Grounds board. Not to mention the Valkyrie blessings and epic monsters. Valhalla adds a lot more changes to the gameplay. The new dice are yellow shield warriors and pink berserkers. The shield warriors have 3 faces that have a shield and an attack, 1 double attack and 2 blank. That means that they have a 50% chance of hitting and blocking an attack at the same time. The berserkers have 3 double attack sides, 2 single attack sides, and 2 blanks. They have a 66% chance of hitting. The caveat to these new awesome warriors, due to their chaotic attacking nature, they must be the first to die if an attack goes through from an enemy. Good news though, if a warrior dies in battle, you trade in the warrior die for a sacrifice token of the matching die. You can collect these in your burial board and cash them in for blessings or epic monsters by matching the symbols. Valkyrie blessings give the player either instant rewards like dice, food, horns, or leader die back, or permanent rewards. These awards are very powerful. For instance, you can get the Enemy Slayer blessing. This blessing grants the warriors in battle with the matching enemy immunity to all attacks, assuming 1 shield is rolled. Or the amulets grant the warriors a resource upon defeating its matching enemy card. The epic monsters reward the player with glory. Lots and lots of glory. Each one of these requires that you match 6 specific tokens to obtain it. These monsters offer immediate glory from 7 to 12 points and in-game scoring depending on the card. For example, Jormungandr gives 9 points immediately and 4 additional glory for each monster killed by the player at the end game. Sacrifice tokens, of course, require you to lose warrior dice, but now there is even more strategy in which ones you decide to sacrifice. Lastly, the changes to the leader. Each player receives a blue leader die that does not count towards the 8 dice limit of the base game, and the narrow leaderboard of their chosen leader. The leader die has a Viking helmet on 2 sides, which triggers the new ability. 1 double attack, 2 single attack, and 1 blank, but no shields. So be aware, if you lose your warrior die in battle, you have to get a blessing to get him back. This expansion retails for $30. It adds a lot and maybe a bit too much. There's a lot going on. Each element is great, but adding them all together is a lot. The epic monsters also seem a little overpowered. If you can get one, you can put the other Vikings at a major disadvantage. Other. I put other after expansions in this episode for a reason. Champions of Midgard has a lot of promo packs. These packs offer new heroes, monsters, trolls, and runes. I have as many of these as I have been able to locate. They have all been shuffled into the respective base game decks, and they only cost between $3 and $6 a set, and they just hammer in that ever awesome replayability. Just recently, like within the last month, I finally received my copy of the Polyhedral Dice promo tiles. These new tiles, one economic and one military, work like the locations that get replenished each round, even when not used like the food and dice locations, except in this instance, instead of adding to the tile, the polyhedral die is replaced with the next size up, D4 to D6, D6 to D8, and so on until the D20 is reached. The Tacklecast House offers as much glory as you roll, so on a D4, 1 to 4 points of glory could be awarded. The Varangian Guard will reward warrior dice based on the die result. A 1 through 3, you get either a white or red. 4 or 5, you get a red and a white. 6 and 7, a red and a black. 8 or higher, you may choose any 2 dice. The best part, these tiles come with a complete polyhedral set of dice that are clear with Viking helmets in them. I'm not going to lie, that was a huge reason why I bought the promo. Well, that and I'm a completionist. Grey Fox has also released official wooden tokens to replace all the cardboard ones from the base game of horns, blame, and coin. I have not purchased these. These cardboard chits just do not bother me, and I cannot justify the $20. Then they have made meat and tree pieces to replace the cubes. I've said it before and I'll say it again, I hate cubes. I guess what I'm trying to say is I bought these replacements for a measly $10. That is money well spent. The standard meeples can be replaced with Viking meeples and the scoring disc with Viking helmets. I started with the 3D printed ones because the real ones were constantly out of stock. However, they recently restocked. I received the email notification of such, and I immediately ordered them. Other sites sell unofficial token replacements, but I have not bothered with them. Of course, you can purchase the neoprene playmat that I mentioned already. It is only $30. I have not bought it yet, but it is on my list of things to do. Which brings me to the next other. After the fall from grace that the broken token took, I will no longer be buying their products. I still love box organizers though. I have a lot of them. They allow me to store my games more compactly and toss unnecessary expansion boxes into the recycling bin. Luckily, there are other companies that have filled the gap. I bought the box organizer by Folded Space, and it is fantastic. I do advise gluing it all together once you build it. The tension between the Evacore pieces is just not quite enough to hold it together. They are affordable though. I got mine for $25, and other games it could be even cheaper. I had to take the time to glue mine all together, as the game has seen a lot more table time as of late. I introduced it to a new group of players, and they are obsessed with it. As with most box organizers, this one actually does help with the teardown and pack up time. In lieu of the box organizer, you could just buy the Jarl edition and get the larger box that comes ready to separate and organize your pieces. Okay, the last other I wanted to mention is that Grey Fox introduced a sequel game, Reavers of Midgard, a few years ago in 2017 on Kickstarter. Again, I did not have the available funds to back it, but over 5,800 people did. The sequel's on my list to play for sure. One thing to note though, Ole Steiness had nothing to do with it. And because this episode has been in the works for over a year, the world of Midgard is growing once again. 2 new games will expand the world of Midgard. Those games are Clans of Midgard and Reavers of Midgard, the card game. They arrive on Kickstarter later in 2023 and will come out in 2024, and this time I'll be ready. Bang for the buck. At the time I purchased Champions of Midgard, it was the most expensive game in my modest but ever-growing collection. It has an MSRP of $60. I am not sure what I paid for it, but I am certain it was in that neighborhood. I can only think of one game that I bought since that time that has cost me more than that, and I was not happy with that game, and I sold it. I have not and will not, however, sell my copy of Champions of Midgard. As I mentioned, this is not a game that you will get in over lunch hour. It is a game that is perfect for that after-hours gaming session. We would play it right after work. I would set up and be ready to play when my coworkers got off work. It was a favorite. Champions of Midgard saw a lot of after-hours play. All in all, I don't care how much it costs, it is totally worth it. Summary. Champions of Midgard easily makes the list of top 3 favorite games. Yes, there are a lot of dice that introduce a ton of randomness. Yes, the dice can lay ruin to your best laid plans. This past year, I had a booth right next to Grey Fox. The founder told me the story of how he signed Champions of Midgard. He said that Ole Steiness had no luck signing the game to major European publishers because of the dice. Euro games look down on dice and the randomness. Grey Fox made this their first signed game, and it has been very successful for both Ole and Grey Fox. Grey Fox also told me that the next game he signed was Deception, another immensely successful game. He then thought, man, this publishing thing is easy. Of course, not all games are as evergreen as these two. I have said many times when describing this game that you will only need a chair for the first 3 rounds. After that, you are up cheering and jeering your opponents as they roll dice to either defeat the enemy or lose their warriors in the process. This continues to be true. Every time I teach this amazing game to new gamers, we are all on our feet come that 4th round and on. If we play it again, we might not even need the chairs for the first 3 rounds. With the amount of worker placement games available on the market, Champions of Midgard stands above most. It combines beautiful artwork with fantastic gameplay to give its players an overall enjoyment and entertaining experience. I hope that I've convinced you to locate a copy, or a friend with a copy, and give this new masterpiece a chance. You can reach out to me via Facebook at facebook.com/eatlunchandboardgame, poddenbox.com/eatlunchandboardgame, or you can always email me at eatlunchandboardgame@gmail.com. And remember, board games build bridges. When you're gaming, why not be comfy? Go over to supportplayer.org. Click on the cards, pieces, and dice to get some merch. These t-shirts are some of the most comfortable I have ever worn. That's supportplayer.org, and there's a link on eatlunchandboardgame.com.